What is going on, guys, and welcome back to this discussion video where there is a lot going down in the world of Transformers. So firstly, Takara Tomy teased two brand new pre-orders, the first being the third entry into the dramatic Capture series line. This will be an Origins 3-pack consisting of Bumblebee, Jazz and Wheeljack, based on, of course, the very first episode of the G1 cartoon. Now these do look to be the same molds as released originally, this time round only sporting some very minor differences to the paint apps. To be completely honest, guys, as someone who owns the originals, I really don't see much of a reason to double dip on these guys. Whereas when it comes down to the next pre-order, that is a whole different story. This will be the fourth entry into the Missing Link lineup, a G1 RC. Now this is incredibly exciting for multiple reasons, but most importantly as the original G1 toy never actually released. There will be two very different versions released, one based more so on the animation model, and the second again heavily inspired by the unreleased figure, even including a completely different head sculpt. Between the two, which is the one do you guys think you're more than likely going to pick up? And what character would you guys like to see Takara Tomy approach next? Honestly, I'm still holding out hope for a G1 Megatron. I think that would be a great companion piece to stack up against Optimus Prime. Now let's change gears over to Hasbro, and I've got some catching up to do, so let's firstly discuss MegaCon. They revealed likely one of the best and most exciting online exclusives in a long time, the Transformers Timeline series. Each release will consist of two characters that will depict the four main Autobots and Decepticons taking on alt forms from certain time periods. The first entry will be Optimus Prime and Starscream based on the incredible Hearts of Steel comics, and these look awesome. We'll start off firstly by taking a look at Optimus Prime. So cool to finally get more transforming trains into the main line. His robot mode looks decent, although surprisingly it's actually not the standout for myself, as again that alt mode looks fantastic. Up until fairly recently, if you wanted anything which vaguely resembled this, you had to go down the third party route, which I do believe now is kind of tricky to track down. Starscream also is looking real good when in robot mode. Definitely a very unique take on the character, and I think that can be seen even more as we check out the alt mode, which right now is kind of looking to be a hot mess, but that is actually how he appeared in the comics, so I guess I can't complain too much. But that's not all, guys, as there was actually a second 2-pack revealed, this time consisting of Megatron and Bumblebee, and I've got to say, definitely looking to be the better between the two releases. Megatron in robot mode looks sick, a complete brand new mold from the ground up, and he will transform into a proper old school cannon, which despite the spikes still looks to have the ability to roll, which is so neat. Bumblebee 2 is super solid and might even just be the best out of all four characters. A great, very chunky robot mode that looks to be super accurate to how he did appear in the comics. So I am really impressed. Honestly, these have turned out so much better than I was expecting, and I'd love to know what you guys think. What timeline would you like to see them potentially explore for future releases? For myself, I think it would be so cool to have the likes of Optimus or Megatron transform into a proper battleship. But sound off below and let me know. Now let's move on to New York Toy Fair, which certainly seems to be back with a bang. So first up, Hasbro revealed some incredibly exciting crossovers with Hot Wheels. These come in the form of Twin Mill and Bone Shaker, although unfortunately we're kind of vague on the details of their release. But so far, so good. I am really looking forward to learning more about these guys. But next up we turn to Age of the Primes, where they dropped the reveals for Wave 2, and some of these are simply wild. So first up is Deluxe Class Alchemist Prime, another of the original 13, and surely I can't be the only one thinking that they are knocking it out of the park with these primes. The robot mode looks fantastic, and I'd say from a design standpoint is super inspired by how Mac Atom appeared in the Transformers Cyberverse TV show. In terms of accessories, he will include his ancient artifact, the lenses, which can be combined to give him the ability, I believe, to reveal people's true intentions. He will transform into a Cybertronian off-road truck, which much like most of the primes is a made up mode, but I think definitely suits the character and again is looking solid. The second entry into Wave 2 will be Deluxe Class Crasher. Now this does look to be a straight up reissue of the version originally released as part of the Velocitron subline, although I do believe was rather challenging originally to track down. The third deluxe reveal is by far the most exciting out of the bunch though, that being Combaticon Vortex. So yes guys, that does confirm that BRUTICUS is coming, and I for one am incredibly incredibly excited about that. His robot mode looks to be ripped straight out of the original G1 cartoon. They really have done a fantastic job. The only part of the design that right now doesn't look too great would have to be the kibble just kind of hanging off the underside of the arms. I'm hoping that maybe that can be removed, but if not, honestly, it's not going to be a huge deal breaker. The helicopter mode though is spot on, zero complaints from myself, and surely I can't be the only one thinking that they are totally going to turn this into an Alpha Bravo. Now the one thing that did definitely take me by surprise with this reveal is that it's looking likely that BRUTICUS will adopt the same skeleton format that we've seen from Legacy Menasor and now more recently from Superion. Honestly, I thought they were going to kind of almost go back to basics with this combiner and give us something slightly more similar in design to Devastator. I am kind of curious to know what you guys think about this. Personally, I don't mind it so much as usually it ends up leaving us with some pretty solid individual forms, but it is a shame to see them almost phase out the classic combiner style completely. Now let's turn to Voyagers, with the first entry being Heatwave from the Rescue Bots universe, and I am a little underwhelmed by this one, I've got to say. So as rumoured, this will be a retool of the Prime Universe bulkhead, at least where the upper half is concerned, and it does look okay, but in comparison to the likes of Chase, I really don't think this is that strong of a release. The chest is just way too chunky for my liking, and I really wish they'd found a way to slim it down a little bit. The truck mode does look alright, at least from the front, but seeing as the back end is basically just Bulkhead's legs, it is a pretty big departure from how he did appear on the show, unfortunately. The next Voyager though is clearly where all the budget went between the two. This is Skybites from the Robots in Disguise universe, and he looks incredible. A really fantastic recreation of how he did appear on the show, and a huge step up in comparison to the previous Thrilling 30s version. The Shark mode too is amazing. Honestly, I was expecting at least one of the modes to be compromised, but that doesn't seem to be the case at all. Completely detailed and filled in front side to back, and this time round hasn't been sculpted at a weird angle like the previous release. I do believe that it was also mentioned by the design team that this form should be pretty decently articulated, which again is great, so definitely I'm super excited to pick this one up. But saving what easily has to be the best for last though, we finally got the wild reveal for Leader Class Onyx Prime, and wow, what a design. Never in my wildest dreams would have I expected this to turn out half as good as it has, and come on, it's got to be easily one of the most ambitious figures they've released to date. They actually were able to successfully pull off the Centaur mode, which my goodness is such a showstopper, and this guy technically has 3 ways of display. The first being on 4 legs with this incredible battle mask deployed, the second being a more traditional bipedal look with the battle mask retracted, and then finally the beast mode, which, do you know what, originally I had zero expectations for, but that too has actually turned out pretty sweet. So overall I am blown away, easily looking to be the best out of the original 13 primes, and I'd love to know what you guys think down below. But there are also quite a few store exclusives that we can expect to see rolled out in the coming months, one specifically based on celebrating the 20th anniversary of Transformers Cybertron, and the first figure to mark that celebration is Deluxe Class Sideways, which looks to be ripped straight out of the animation. An incredibly faithful update to what was already a really solid figure back in the day, although one that has now become rather difficult to track down. This guy does include his Cyber Planet key, which surprisingly looks to maybe even activate the same gimmick that the original had. If you check out the robot mode, there does look to be a tiny Decepticon insignia on the top side of his blaster, yet when in the jet mode I am definitely seeing the Autobot logo, so that's going to be really cool. Now as for the second figure, granted whilst this isn't as exciting, it's still pretty hype, that being a Deluxe Class Cybertron Excellion, which looks to be a straight up repaint of Hotshot, only this time round sporting the awesome Hot Rod colours, and I've got to say, it's looking to maybe be even better looking than the original version. There were also some Transformers Studio Series reveals, the first being a Voyager class priced 86 movie Perceptor that will include both Ramhorn and Ratbat as minions to Blaster and Soundwave. Now Perceptor does look cool, this time rocking colours that do better match how he appeared on the show, although I do believe originally it was mentioned by the design team that they would be beefing him up, and I've got to be honest guys, I'm just not seeing any mold changes at all. Maybe there's a panel on the back that we just haven't quite seen yet, but as of right now it's looking to just be a straight repaint. Ramhorn though is a complete brand new mold from the ground up, and for the size I think looks decent. Definitely way better in comparison to Steeljaw, although it doesn't seem like he will include an additional speaker unfortunately, which I do think is kind of crafty. Ratbat is a straight up repaint of the Transformer Siege counterpart, only this time round with an additional jetpack accessory, which I really do think is quite a neat add-on. So overall, it's not a bad looking set, but do I think there are some things here they could have changed? Absolutely, at least to fill out some of the gaps on Perceptor. And then finally, the next Studio Series reveal is actually one based on the Transformers Devastation video game, that being a Voyager class Elite Seeker and a Deluxe class Ground Soldier 2-pack. These look really nice. I particularly like the Ground Soldier as he is based on the Runamuck mold, a figure now that is near enough impossible to track down. My only gripe with these two is that surely they're going to be super out of scale stacked up against the Deluxe class Optimus Prime, as I don't ever really remember them being that much bigger in the game, but it is still cool to get some army builders into the line, and the cell shading does look sick. So that right there guys is a wrap out of everything discussed in today's video. What are you most excited for? I've got to mention that all of the in-hand images taken on the showroom floor do come from TFW 2005. But as always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Transform and roll out!